Hi everyone, this is Greg Hunt. I'm a mediator, a trainer, and host of No Disputing That, a podcast for anyone with an interest in dispute resolution. In this series, I sit down with some of the leading names in the dispute resolution field to discuss mediation, arbitration, and other forms of alternative dispute resolution, which we also call ADR. We may even cover other issues in the law and in life in general. Expect some laughs, some honesty, and quite a few editing errors along the way. Today, I'm talking arbitration and other matters with Owen Lawrence, Chief Executive of Arbitration International. Prior to establishing Arbitra, Owen worked for more than 20 years in the international arbitration sector, working with leading law firms, lawyers, arbitrators, mediators, barristers, and arbitral institutions worldwide. Owen managed the international arbitration department at two of London's leading commercial sets of barristers' chambers. In those roles, he worked with lawyers in managing their careers in international arbitration, from their first appointments as arbitrators right through to retirement. Away from Arbitra, Owen is a member of the Africa Board for Save the Children, and in his spare time, he's a keen cyclist and rugby fan, particularly of rugby league. Owen, it's great to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thanks very much, Greg. Good to speak to you.
Good. Okay, so this might not be the first episode that actually goes out aired, but it is the first one to be recorded. So I'm as anxious as you are, okay, that we get this right. So relax, chill, whatever it is. We're going to work through some questions. We've got to know each other quite well over the last couple of years where we've worked on a few projects with each other, and some of that might come up as we speak. But I'm sure there's much more to learn. So I'm going to crack on with some questions to get the conversation flowing. And for anyone who's listening, and I'm sure because it's Owen on the show, we will have some listeners. Owen has no idea of what the questions are. Okay, so he's sitting there anxiously at the moment, not knowing what's coming next. So are you ready, Owen?
I'm absolutely ready.
Excellent. Okay, so we've heard an introduction from me about you and a little bit about Arbitra. But in your own words, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do? And feel free to add anything personal.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks very much. I mean, Arbitra, for those who don't know, is a stable of independent arbitrators and mediators, and launched July 21, in the making for a number of years prior to that. But I just kind of identified after, as you say, make me feel old actually, Greg, over 20 years now in this industry, that there was a gap, the twofold gap really. For law firms, there was no real strategy to finding the best or most suitable mediator or arbitrator, so we addressed that. And equally for those stepping away from big law, from chambers, there was no kind of organizations which offer the infrastructure that we do. There were places to hang your name on a door, like door tenancy. There are organizations which you can sign up to and kind of be with other neutrals, but there was no one really offering the kind of the infrastructure which a lot of our members found at their law firms. So here they receive a full management team, advisory support, financial management, IT support, and actually an address, which is, I think, quite a daunting prospect when people step away from these kind of conflict towers and step out on their own. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's Arbitra, that's us. I think you asked about me as well. So
yeah.
I am Arbitra, I suppose, along with the team here, and that's what's been keeping us busy for the last year and a bit now. It's been a kind of a rapid growth. I think, as I say, we identified the gap, and that's been recognised with now 35 stellar members and so many applications, which is almost a full-time job in itself.
Yeah, excellent. So obviously you've gone through a lot of growth in that year and a half. One thing I have a lot of difficulty with when people ask me this question, I'd be interested to get your response, because you're chief exec in an industry that a lot of people don't know about. So obviously, if you're a lawyer or you're involved in arbitration, you'll know about arbitration. But if you don't, you won't have a clue what it is. So how, if you were out at a sort of a pub and someone asked you what you do, how would you explain it?
Yeah, so to people who don't know the industry, I mean, I spent 20 years explaining what a barrister's clerk was, and then this program called Silk popped up, and it portrayed a criminal silk which was the polar opposite to what we were doing. We were running, sophisticated commercial businesses with offices across the world, and looking after some of the world's largest disputes. Billy in Silk was this kind of wheeler dealer criminal clerk. So I spent a long time kind of explaining to people that wasn't the case. In this guise, in this business, I just describe it as to the Joe public, a law firm, but instead of having lawyers, we have arbitrators and mediators. To be honest with you, with the public, you often have to explain what a mediator and arbitrator is. So that's it. But to those in the industry, we're a stable of arbitrators and mediators, dispute board members and adjudicators. We provide the neutrals. We assist law firms in finding those neutrals.
Yeah, great show, Silk. I remember it well. I thought you might give me a magic answer there, because I always struggle when people ask me what I do. Kids just say he goes on work holidays and drinks coffee. I think that's about the best I can do.
Yeah, I think mine agree. Mine definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you reckon, for those who do know what arbitration is, what's the biggest misconception people have about it?
About
arbitration.
Yeah,
about arbitration.
I think, well, about arbitration, sometimes they think we're an institution, which we're definitely not. We don't have our own rules. In terms of arbitration, there's a lot of people kind of, they have arbitration departments. Well, what is that? I mean, arbitration is broken down into many different sectors, and people are experts in those sectors. Even the directories don't really quite know how to recognize these individuals. So I don't know. I guess the misconception is it's a kind of job title, which it isn't, because, as I say, you can be an energy arbitrator. We've got people who do financial services. We've got people like yourself who do commercial and business mediations, all the way through to people like Wolf von Kuenberg, who's doing investor state mediations. So yeah, I don't think you can just kind of generalize the term, to be honest, particularly if you're in the industry. You really understand that.
Yeah, I think in and outside more, but even I've come across this inside as well. People do get confused between mediation and arbitration, surprisingly a lot. And then you get programs like I've seen on EastEnders in the past when we used to watch it, them saying that an arbitrator is going to get involved and they mean a mediator, and it confuses everybody even more. It's still quite an unknown sector outside of the business world. In many ways. And going back to what you said about describing what you do, and people mention family law. I think if I had £1 for every time someone asked me, when I say I'm a mediator, oh, do you do family disputes? I'll probably have more pounds than I've ever earned in actually being a mediator. It does seem to be.
You must also get the calls like I do, which is, oh, you work in law, don't you? Yeah, can I just introduce a friend who needs a lawyer? And no, it's not quite the same law often.
No, and it's quite hard to find out a way. If you were to Google, and there are other browsers available, if you were to Google mediation, the first couple of pages is all about family mediation. It's all about family disputes. So it's quite hard to break through the fact that people are using ADR quite a lot for family related matters, and it's hard to get your message over sometimes.
But I think that's kind of testament to the success and the importance of mediation. you know, that was a sector that was screaming out for mediation. There are still many that are adapting it. Dubai just recently published their government published the encouragement to mediate, and again, that kind of that part of the world was rare, but we're seeing a real increase there. I think family law has set a good example of why people should incorporate this in their dispute resolution process.
Yeah, 100% agree. Okay, a fun question now. And this is one I would find impossible to answer without talking for about 3 hours. So maybe don't keep it quite that long. Cheese or crisps, and why?
Well, we're just post lunch and we had some crisps, and yeah, they're my kind of guilty pleasure, I suppose.
Yeah. I just think that I could probably do a whole series of podcasts on cheese and crisps. It probably says more about my need to maybe lose some weight than it does about mediation or arbitration.
Cheesy crisps, right?
Yeah, cheesy crisps. Yeah. Sort of kettle-y type cheesy crisps. Yeah, very good. So I know your main focus is arbitration, but you do have mediators on your books. Not mentioning any names. So do you have a view on whether the new moves towards mandatory mediation are good for the development of ADR in general, or are you against what you've heard so far in terms of the moves?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's interesting because I think you break it down into sectors. Again, there's been I don't think you could just blanket impose mediation. I think it has to be in the right arena. And you also have to have the right mediators. One thing I think that people understand who have done mediation is the pool of good mediators is very small. The pool is big if you look at the people who think they're good mediators, but often people who have, typically judges or lawyers, it's ingrained in them to see one way. They've had to form an opinion all of their professional lives, and that, as you and I know, is not what mediation is. Looking at different sectors, we've seen this in various divisions of the courts for many years. The last 10 years they've had these clauses, and sitting in the position where I was, I would have parties say, look, we've got this, we have to mediate, but we don't want to mediate. And if you've got people with that approach, what's the point? It's just another bit, more cash. But then equally, we're seeing kind of litigation and arbitration flipped on its head quite a lot at the moment, particularly as people are under massive time constraints. If you look at ESG, for example, there's not time to go through these processes of litigation and arbitration, and really hitting these problems head on is the only way people will meet carbon credits, for example, or reduce huge cost. Let's face it, you only have to turn on the telly to realize that cash is key at the moment. So I think it is important. Bit of a long-winded answer to whether it's mandatory, but I think it just applies. Again, you and I could talk about, if you said, well, in the county courts, and then there's different views. If you said commercial court, different views, and just in contracts in generally. I think it is important. Everyone's got their arbitration clauses, particularly on cross-jurisdictional matters, but to have a mediation clause in there at the forefront is what the M&A lawyers should really be looking at.
Yeah. And sort of sticking with a similar sort of part of the question, it occurs to me sometimes that even though arbitration has been around, in the UK now, I'm talking, not in world history, arbitration has been around more established than mediation has for a longer time. Sometimes it feels like arbitration is the poor relation to mediation in terms of people trying to get more arbitration in place. So, for example, there's a Civil Mediation Council that promotes mediation. There's the Family Mediation Council. There's lots of talk about mandatory mediation. There's government contracts have mediation clauses in them. and people sort of overlook the benefits of arbitration sometimes, I think. And I often wonder, well, if arbitration was promoted and encouraged as much as mediation is for the right types of disputes, then wouldn't that just be a fantastic thing as well? And I think, for example, of the travel arbitration scheme that we run at Hunt ADR, thousands of arbitration cases that would have gone to court are being resolved through arbitration each year. They don't cost a lot of money. The arbitration award is sound. It's written by, well qualified arbitrators, experienced arbitrators who know the industry. If that was replicated across lots of different sectors, a push for that is just as valuable, maybe, as a push for mediation.
Yeah, I think there's lots of sectors that could really benefit from arbitration, and as you say, the travel arbitrations, for example. I mean, what's the average turnaround for those? Is what? How long? A couple of months?
Well, for the whole case, yeah. So from somebody making a claim through to the publication of the arbitration award can take 8 to 12 weeks, I would say, on average.
Yeah, and if you compare that at the moment, if you flip on the news, there's, I think, 69,000 backlog of cases in the English judicial system, which will take years to be heard. I mean, there's a quick argument there, isn't there, to say if these...
There is, and it's as if arbitration's never considered as part of that argument. It's always about use mediation.
Yeah, but people just, there's, again, they go through the wheels of litigation. It's like, then you've just got to be a bit more innovative in the way you look at it. If you look at the criminal justice system, I strongly believe that there is a model there which could really benefit both government, both the accused, and it would speed up the process quite quickly. There's lots of ways to filter through these cases and bring the ones that need to be in court there. But often, as you say, these matters could be mediated, or they could quickly be arbitrated without putting the pressure on a system that is.
I'm not wanting to put myself out of business as a mediator, but looking at with my arbitration hat on, not being an arbitrator, but having an arbitration business, there's just, it seems to me that one of the things you would get if there was more arbitration is finality, because of course some mediations don't settle. Whereas if you go down the arbitration route, you are going to get an award and you are going to get a final and legally binding settlement to that dispute.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, just a few more questions left. I know you like chess, like I do. We often threaten we're going to sit down and have a game. Are you actually any good?
You know what? I beat a King's Counsel the other day. That was my kind of benchmark. They popped in and insisted on a game. So here at Arbitra, we've got a chessboard in the office, which, as you say, it has got quite a bit of dust on it, but it came out the other day and it was good. I also play my dad on an app as well, and had some kind of epic battles over the years. But yeah, I'm not bad. I'm not bad.
Yeah, we really should have a game. I play a lot on an app, and on this app yesterday I became a national grandmaster.
Okay, yeah,
and I'm like,
not here anymore.
what does that mean? In terms of in real life. I mean, I could probably play anyone and get absolutely thrashed, but on this app, I'm like a national grandmaster. Do you think, bit tenuous maybe, but do you think playing chess sort of helps you to sort of categorize and plan things in your work life?
Yeah, I think there's lots of things that do actually. So you mentioned at the outset, I'm a cyclist. I mean, that's my kind of my reset. That's where I concentrate on the road, the potholes, the drivers, the the route, the speed, etc. And that's like always a kind of a mind cleanser for me. And I come up, you know, when I finished a ride, I've got a lot of kind of clarity. And I think chess equally is something that you have to really concentrate on. You know, you're always thinking so many moves ahead, and that's exactly the same with business. You know, you make a move and you have to predict what the consequence of that move is going to be, not the kind of the next move, but the next 10 moves. And so I think there are kind of similarities there. I think yeah, that's certainly how my mind works. And also, let's not overlook the fact it's all about winning. And and if you know, if you're driven and you want to win, then you know you have to make those moves sensibly.
Yeah, I agree. Just had an idea actually, maybe during a conference or even London Disputes Week. How about Arbitra hosting a chess championship for any arbitrators or mediators who happen to be in the area for that particular week?
Well, we can definitely throw that out there. I think the only danger is there's often lots of excuses not to attend these panel sessions, and that's just a great one, isn't
it? Yeah. It'd have to be a timed game. You couldn't have someone sitting there for 3 hours.
Yeah, but I think putting out, you know, we've all been to these industry conferences actually, just putting a couple of chessboards out in the breakout area or the sponsors area.
Well, would it be too controversial for me to say that I've been to a lot of these conferences, not saying London Disputes Week, but conferences where I've sat through arbitration talks where it would actually have been more interesting if two people were playing chess on the stage?
I couldn't comment on that.
Okay. Right, just a couple of questions to go. What's the best advice a mentor ever gave you during your early career, or even now? You know, you've been in this job for 18 months or so. People must have given you some advice during that time as well. What's the best bit of advice you've been given?
Yeah, I mean, some great advice. Whenever we had new members join chambers, we sent them on networking courses, because we'd have these kind of junior barristers who have, you know, as all the textbooks have been crammed in, the kind of personable kind of attributes and ability to network had kind of fallen out the other side of their heads. And there's a guy called Will Kintish who I really like, and he always just said to me, you know, whenever you're going into a room, and I do this all the time, I've 10 conferences with thousands of people that, you know, have no idea who they are. He just says, you know, he always says that, you know, fear is temporary, regret is forever. And I always just remind myself of that and just think, let's not regret kind of not going to say hello to that person. Let's just throw yourself into it and go for it. The advice I give to junior lawyers now, and lots come in and ask for the kind of directional advice, and it's just, you know, it's just be there. Don't feel like you don't belong in any of these places, because you do, and everyone started there. So attend, go there. If you don't, you're invisible. Be visible. You know, learn and you know, build your network. And don't wait. You know, some people, they turn up at these conferences when they're senior partners or partner level. You know, send your associates, send your juniors, get them out there, get them doing that kind of legwork for you. I mean, you know, you've witnessed it here, that the amount of people that come through and we're connected with and know and have met from different places around the world. You know, so yeah, just belong, be there, and don't regret at the end of the night.
Yeah, I feel like you slightly tell me off there, because you often think I should do more networking, and I sort of find a way to wheedle out of it. So even at 52,
well, no, look, Greg, let's face it, you're part of Arbitration, so we did that on your behalf. But no.
Excellent. Right, so just to finish then, is there anything you wished I'd asked you, or that you just want to tell us about, anything you've got planned or things coming on the horizon?
Yeah, what are we up to? Lots, to be honest. With 35 members, people are constantly popping up all over the place. Got exciting projects with the Ministry of Justice at the moment. So we're putting together some high-end kind of round tables in Miami,
Mhm.
which sounds quite glamorous, but it's going to be hard work. We've just launched in Abu Dhabi, obviously, so we've got our Middle East footprint now, which I think is important. It's what I touched upon earlier in terms of that region being very kind of starting to really entertain mediation. What else are we up to? There's always lots, as you know. Every time you come in, there's a development, and I think we've been blessed with many benchmarks and celebrations, and we're taking it all in our stride at the moment.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much, Owen. If any listeners want to get in touch with Owen, then you can find him easily on LinkedIn, or you can email him at owen@arbitra.co.uk, or you can contact me and I can make an introduction for you. Thank you for listening to No Disputing That. Please subscribe to hear more from experts in the field. If you'd like to suggest any future areas for discussion or to appear on the show yourself, you can follow us on Twitter at No Disputing That and send us a DM. Finally, if you need a mediator, give my management team at Arbitra International a call on 020 7936 7070 or email info@arbitra.co.uk. See you next time on No Disputing That.